You're not enough, Travis. You never were. Steven makes me feel alive in ways you never could. You're just safe, boring, a placeholder until something better came along. Those words came out of my wife's mouth 3 weeks ago, and I let her think I was shattered. My name is Travis Wayne, and I'm about to tell you how I made the woman who destroyed me cry harder than I ever did. I knew Diana was leaving me before she found the courage to say it. I'm an IT security specialist, which is a polite way of saying I know how to see things people don't want me to see. When your wife changes her phone password after 6 years of marriage, you notice. When she starts wearing perfume to grab coffee with Aria, you notice. When she smiles at her screen in a way she hasn't smiled at you in months, you definitely notice. It was a Tuesday morning when I decided to make her favorite breakfast. Avocado toast with poached eggs, the way her mother used to make it before the cancer took her. I watched Diana scroll through her phone, her lips curved in that secretive smile I used to believe was meant for me. The morning light caught the gold of her wedding ring, and I remembered the day I put it there. She cried happy tears. She'd promised forever. Who's making you that happy? I asked, setting the plate in front of her. The smile died instantly. Her eyes snapped up, defensive and guilty in equal measure. Just Aria. Girl talk. I nodded, leaned down, and kissed her forehead like I'd done 1,000 mornings before. I'm glad you have her. The lie tasted like ash, but I'd gotten good at swallowing poison and calling it breakfast. As I walked away, I caught my reflection in the window. For just a moment, I let the mask slip. My face went cold, calculating. I whispered the name that had been circling my mind like a vulture for weeks. Aria. Diana didn't see it. She never saw me. Not really. Not the way I saw her. I went to my office and opened my laptop. The screen flickered to life, showing surveillance footage from yesterday. Our bedroom. Diana pacing with her phone pressed to her ear, her voice low and urgent. I'd installed the cameras 2 months ago after we had a break-in. At least, that's what I told her. There was no break-in. There was just me, preparing for war. I clicked play on yesterday's footage. Diana's voice filled my headphones, and each word was a knife I'd pulled out later and sharpened. I'm going to tell him soon, Steven. I just need the right moment. I'm scared. A pause. Then, softer, more vulnerable than she'd been with me in a year. I love you too. My hand trembled as I closed the laptop. Not from grief. From rage so pure it felt like ice in my veins. I had 3 weeks before she planned to leave me. 3 weeks to stop her, to beg, to fight for a marriage that was already dead in her heart. But I wasn't going to do any of that. Instead, I was going to plan something she'd never see coming. Something that would make her understand exactly what she'd thrown away. I knew Diana was meeting Aria that evening. I knew because I'd been tracking her calendar, her texts, her every digital footprint for weeks. What Diana didn't know was that I'd also cloned her phone. Every message, every call, every deleted photo lived on a server I controlled. When she walked out the door in her new dress, the one she'd hidden in the back of her closet, I was already listening. They met at that wine bar downtown, the one with exposed brick and overpriced mellow. I sat in my car 2 blocks away with my headphones in, listening through Diana's phone microphone. The audio was crystal clear. I'd made sure of it. You look amazing, Aria said. I could hear the clink of glasses, the murmur of other conversations fading into background noise. Is that new? Just something I picked up. Diana's voice was lighter than it had been at home in months. Happy. That used to be my doing. Let me guess. Steven loved it. Aria's tone was knowing, conspiratorial. The tone of someone who'd orchestrated this entire disaster. He did. Diana giggled. Actually giggled. He says I look like I'm finally living instead of just existing. There was a pause. I could picture Aria leaning forward, going in for the kill. She was good at this. 3 years of destroying men in divorce court had made her a surgical striker. You know what your problem is, D.I. Aria's voice dropped lower, more intimate. You're too comfortable. Travis is nice. But nice isn't exciting. When's the last time he surprised you? I gripped my steering wheel hard enough to make my knuckles white. I wanted to burst through that door and tell Diana everything I'd done for her. The way I turned our modest savings into millions through investments she never asked about. The algorithm I'd sold that could have changed our lives if she'd ever cared enough to ask about my work. The surprise trip to Italy I'd been planning for our 5th anniversary, 2 weeks away, is stable, Diana said, and I heard the hesitation. That's good, right? Stable is code for boring. Aria's words were poison wrapped in concern. Your mom settled for stable. Look how that ended. The silence that followed was devastating. Diana's mother had stayed with an alcoholic for 25 years and died at 52, having never truly lived. Diana had been 15 when she watched her mother fade away. She'd made me promise once, early in our relationship, that she'd never become her mother. I'd broken a lot of promises to myself over the years, but I'd kept that one. I'd tried to make her happy every single day. That's not fair, Diana whispered, but her voice cracked. Life is short, babe. Aria's hand must have reached across the table because I heard the soft sound of skin on skin. Stephen makes you feel alive. Travis makes you feel safe. But safety is just a prettier word for trapped. I closed my eyes. In the darkness behind my eyelids, I saw Diana at 23, laughing in the rain on our second date. I saw her at 25, saying yes when I proposed on that beach in California. I saw her at 27, crying in my arms when her mother died, telling me I was the only person who made her feel like she could survive the grief. Now I was her cage, her trap, her burden. Diana's phone buzzed, and I heard her sharp intake of breath. It's Stephen. What does it say? Aria asked, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Can't stop thinking about you. Leave him. Be with me. The silence stretched. I sat in my car, listening to my wife decide my fate through a microphone she didn't know existed. You're going to do it, aren't you? Aria's voice was triumphant. I think so. Diana's words were barely a whisper. I think I have to. I pulled the headphones out and sat in the darkness of my car. What Diana didn't know was that I'd been listening to every word of every conversation for 3 weeks. I knew Aria's game. I knew Stephen's lies. And I knew exactly how to make them all pay. 2 days later, Diana told me she'd invited some friends over for dinner. Just a casual thing, she said, not meeting my eyes. Aria's bringing someone new. A friend of hers who just moved to town. I knew who it was. I'd known for 3 weeks. Stephen Phillips, 35, luxury car dealer, the man my wife was leaving me for. I'd done my research. 5 years ago, I sold a cybersecurity algorithm to a Fortune 500 company for $8.7 million. The skills that made me that money also made me very, very good at finding out everything about a person. Stephen had 2 other women he was seeing in nearby cities. His Rolex was a fake, and he owed $340,000 to people who didn't accept late payments. But Diana didn't know any of that. So I smiled and said, sounds great. I'll pick up some wine. When Stephen walked through our door that evening, I made sure I was the first one to greet him. He was tall, confident, wearing a suit that probably cost more than he could afford. His handshake was firm, aggressive, the kind of grip men use when they're trying to establish dominance. Travis, I said warmly, matching his pressure exactly. You must be Stephen. Diana's told me a lot about you. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise? Maybe. That I was being friendly. All good things, I hope. His smile was practiced, charming. I could see why Diana fell for it. She mentioned you in IT. Must be comfortable work. Comfortable. That word again. I kept my smile easy. It pays the bills. Nice watch, by the way. Is that the new Submariner? Stephen's chest puffed out just slightly. Yeah, just picked it up. 15 grand. But you know how it is. Life's too short not to treat yourself. I leaned in slightly, examining it under the light. The serial number placement was wrong. The weight was off. I'd owned a real version of this watch for 2 years, a gift from the CEO whose company I'd saved from a massive security breach. Mine was in a safe at a storage unit Diana didn't know about, along with most of my actual wealth. Beautiful piece, I said, though the serial number placement looks a little off. Might want to get it authenticated. There are some great fakes circulating lately. Stephen's smile faltered for just a microsecond. His hand moved to cover the watch instinctively. Yeah, I'll look into that. At dinner, I ordered the most expensive wine on the menu. A 2015 Chateau Margaux, $600 a bottle. Stephen tried to look impressed, but I saw the way his jaw tightened. When the check came and he reached for his wallet to split it, his card declined. Fraud protection, he said quickly, laughing it off. Always happens when I'm traveling for work. No worries, man. I pulled out my black card and covered the entire bill without hesitation. Happens to everyone. Aria watched me carefully across the table. She was smart. I'd give her that. A divorce attorney who'd won 4 to 7 consecutive cases. She knew how to read people, how to find weaknesses. But she didn't know I'd been reading her too. Later that night, after everyone left, I sent a text from a burner phone to Stephen's number. We should grab lunch. Man to man. I think we have a lot to talk about. I watched the 3 dots appear and disappear on my screen as Stephen tried to figure out who was texting him. Finally, who is this? I didn't respond. Let him wonder. Let him worry. I needed Stephen to trust me eventually, and nothing builds trust like manufactured mystery. Diana came home 3 nights later at 11:15. Her lipstick was smudged. Her blouse was buttoned wrong, one button off, making the collar sit crooked. I was sitting in the living room with all the lights off, waiting. How was Aria's? I asked from the darkness. She jumped, her hand flying to her chest. Jesus, Travis, you scared me. She fumbled for the light switch. Leave it off, I said quietly. How was book club? Even in the darkness, I could see her freeze. What? I stood slowly, walking toward her, each step deliberate. You said you were at Aria's. Book club. How was it? Good. Yeah, we discussed. She was stammering. Diana never stammered. We discussed the book. Which book? I was close enough now to smell his cologne on her skin. Not mine. His. The one about marriage. I stopped inches from her face. In the dim light from the street, I could see her eyes were wide, panicked. Diana, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. I paused, let the silence stretch until it hurt. Are you happy? Her eyes filled with tears immediately. I don't know. I walked to the side table and picked up a glass of water I'd poured an hour ago. Handed it to her with steady hands. The cameras caught everything, DEI. Every single thing. The glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the hardwood floor. Water spread across the wood like spilled truth. I walked to my laptop, opened it, turned the screen toward her. Press play. There she was, 2 weeks ago, in our living room. Stephen's hands in her hair, his mouth on hers, on our couch, in our home. The timestamp glowed in the corner, 2:47 p.m. While I was at work, earning money to pay for the home she was desecrating. Diana's knees buckled. She caught herself on the wall. Travis, how long? My voice was eerily calm. 6 months. She was sobbing now, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of coming home to a woman who kissed me goodnight after kissing him goodbye. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break things. Instead, I laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. God, I'm so stupid. She reached for me. Travis, I'm so sorry. I stepped back. Does he make you happy? She hesitated. That hesitation was longer than our entire marriage. Yes. I nodded slowly, like I was accepting defeat. This was the performance of my life. Then go. I sat down heavily on the couch, head in my hands. I won't fight you. I won't make this ugly. You deserve to be happy, D.I., even if it's not with me. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You letting me go? I looked up at her, and I let real tears come. They weren't hard to find. Beneath the rage, beneath the planning, the grief was still there. I love you too much to keep you prisoner. Diana collapsed onto the floor, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. I'm so sorry. You're such a good man. You don't deserve this. I got down on the floor and held her while she cried. Stroked her hair, whispered that it would be okay. I know, I said softly. I know I'm a good man, and I know you'll regret this. After she cried herself out and went to bed, I sat alone in the dark. My tears stopped the moment her bedroom door closed. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to a private investigator I'd hired 2 weeks ago. She bought it. Moved to Phase 2. 3 days later, Diana sat across from Aria in her law office. I knew this because I'd placed a recording device in Diana's purse. Insurance, I told myself. Evidence. This is going to be easy, Aria was saying, her voice sharp with excitement. Travis will give you everything just to avoid conflict. Men like him always do. We'll take the house, half his retirement, spousal support for at least 5 years. Aria, I don't want to destroy him. Diana's voice was small. I just want to move on. Why are you defending him? Aria's tone shifted, aggressive now. Listen to me. Men like Travis, they seem nice until you try to leave. Then they become monsters. You need to strike first, strike hard. Take everything before he realizes what's happening. I sat in my car outside the building, listening, my jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. Aria wasn't Diana's friend. She was a weapon Diana had unknowingly aimed at herself. Diana's phone rang. She pulled it out, frowning at the unknown number. Hello. Mrs. Wayne? This is Detective Rodriguez from the Financial Crimes Unit. We need to talk about Stephen Phillips. Are you aware he's currently under investigation for embezzlement and fraud? The silence that followed was beautiful. That evening, I sent Diana a link. No message, just a link. I tracked her phone and watched as she opened it. Security footage from Stephen's dealership. Time-stamped. Stephen in his office, kissing a blonde woman. Then a brunette. Then a redhead. The timestamps overlapped with Diana's relationship. One woman from 2 months ago. Another from last week. Diana was never special. She was just another mark. I also sent bank records. Stephen's accounts, all of them, obtained through methods I'd learned from my years in cybersecurity. $340,000 in debt. Loans from institutions that didn't advertise on television. The kind of people who broke knees when payments were late. 20 minutes later, Diana called me. Did you send this? Yes. How did you? She stopped. Never mind. I'm going to confront him. Diana, wait. But she'd already hung up. I smiled. Let her see who Stephen really was. Let him show her his true face without me there to be blamed for the revelation. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Diana's text. You were right. About everything. Can I come home? I waited exactly 12 minutes before responding. Long enough to make her sweat. Of course. Diana confronted Stephen at his apartment. I didn't need to be there because she called me immediately after, her voice shaking with rage and humiliation. He admitted it. All of it. The other women. The debt. He said he researched you, thought you were wealthy, that I was his retirement plan. He was going to marry me and drain your accounts. Our accounts, I corrected gently. He never loved me. She was crying again. I threw away 6 years of marriage for a con artist. Come home, I said. We'll figure this out. But I wasn't done. Not even close. The next morning, I walked into Aria's law office without an appointment. Her secretary tried to stop me, but I'd already pushed through her door. Aria looked up, startled, then amused. Travis, to what do I owe the pleasure? I closed the door behind me and sat down uninvited. I pulled a small recording device from my pocket and set it on her desk. You set this up. She laughed. Actually laughed. Prove it. I slid a folder across her desk. Text messages. 7 months of them. Between you and Stephen. You introduced them. You coached Diana on what to say, what to wear, how to fall in love with him. You orchestrated this entire affair. Aria's smile didn't fade, but her eyes went cold. Even if that were true, you obtained that illegally. It's inadmissible. I didn't obtain it. I leaned forward. Diana did. From her own phone. Yesterday, after she found out about Stephen, she gave me permission to recover all her deleted messages. She wanted to know if her best friend knew she was being scammed. For the first time, Aria's confidence cracked. I pressed play on the recorder. Diana's voice filled the office. Aria, did you know about Stephen's other women? Silence. Then Aria's voice, tinny through the speaker. Does it matter? You're out. You're free from Travis. That's what matters. You used me, Diana said on the recording, to get revenge on your ex-husband. I was never your friend. I was your experiment. I stopped the playback. Diana wants nothing to do with you. Stephen's been arrested for fraud, and I'm sending this recording, along with evidence of your conspiracy to interfere in a marriage for personal gain, to your state bar association. You'll be disbarred by Friday. Aria's face went white. You can't. I already did. I stood. You destroyed my marriage because your husband cheated. But Diana isn't your ex, Stephen isn't your ex. And I'm not the man you wanted me to be. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Aria, the recording I just played? I made copies. Lots of them. If you ever contact Diana again, they go public. Every divorce case you've ever won will be reviewed. Every client will question if you manipulated them too. I left her sitting there, frozen. Diana came home that night broken, completely shattered. She fell into my arms at the door. I ruined everything. You were right there. You loved me, and I threw it away for nothing. For a con artist and a woman who hated men so much she turned me into her weapon. I held her, stroked her hair. You're not stupid. You were manipulated. Can you ever forgive me? She looked up at me with those green eyes that had made me fall in love with her 8 years ago. I was quiet for a long moment. I don't know yet. What can I do? Her voice cracked. To prove I'm sorry? To prove I want us again? This was it. The moment I'd been building toward. There's something I need to tell you first. Something I should have told you years ago. I walked to my office, to the locked drawer I'd kept sealed since we married. Diana followed, confused. I pulled out a photo album she'd never seen. Opened it to the first page. A little girl with my eyes and someone else's smile. Blonde curls. 3 years old. Frozen in time forever. Her name was Emma. Diana stayed at the photo, then at me. Who is she? My daughter. The words hurt coming out. They always did. I was married before, to a woman named Sophie. We had Emma when I was 24. She was diagnosed with leukemia at 2. She died when she was 3. Diana's hand covered her mouth. Travis. I flipped through the album. Emma at her first birthday. Emma in a hospital bed. Emma's last Christmas. Sophie left me 6 months after Emma died. She said she couldn't look at me without seeing what we lost. I spent 4 years in therapy learning how to trust again. Learning how to let someone in without being terrified they'd leave. I looked at Diana. Really looked at her. You were my second chance. The first person who made me believe in love after everything I'd lost. I was going to tell you about Emma on our anniversary. 2 weeks from now. I had a whole plan. Dinner at that restaurant where we had our first date. A letter I'd written to Emma, telling her about the woman I'd fallen in love with. Diana was sobbing. Why didn't you tell me before? Because on our third date, you said something. You said, I'm so glad you don't have baggage like an ex-wife or kids. Fresh start. You were so happy about it. And I thought, if I just love you perfectly enough, if I was just good enough, I'd never have to tell you. You'd never have to carry my grief. I would have understood. Would you? I closed the album. Or would you have seen me differently? Seen me as broken? As someone who couldn't protect the people he loved? Diana reached for me, but I stepped back. I watched you fall in love with someone else. I watched you plan to leave me. And every single second, I thought about Emma. About how I wasn't enough to make Sophie stay. And now I wasn't enough to make you stay either. Travis, please. She was on her knees now. I'll do anything. Therapy. Counseling. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Stop. I held up my hand. I've thought about this. For 3 weeks, I've done nothing but think. I pulled out a document from the drawer. I had my lawyer draw this up. A post-nuptial agreement. You sign it. We try again. You don't? I file for divorce tomorrow. Diana grabbed it desperately. I'll sign anything. Anything. Read it first. She did. Her face went pale as she read each clause. No spousal support if she ever cheated again. All marital assets staying in my name for 5 years. Mandatory individual and couples therapy. No contact with Aria ever again. And the part that made her hands shake, a public apology letter to my family and friends, explaining the affair in detail. This is... She looked up at me. This is humiliating. You humiliated me for 6 months. If I sign this, I'm giving up everything. You could leave me with nothing. Yes. I met her eyes. That's the point. Then why even give me this option? She was crying again. Why not just leave? I crouched down to her level. Because unlike you, I believe in second chances. Even when they're not deserved. Even when it's the stupidest thing I could possibly do. Because I love you enough to give you everything. And I'm stupid enough to believe maybe you can learn to love me that way too. Diana stayed at the document for a long time. Then she picked up the pen. She signed it. 1 year passed. Diana did everything the contract required. Therapy twice a week. The apology letters that made her cry as she wrote them. She cut off Aria completely. She came home every night at 6. She cooked. She tried. She rebuilt trust brick by brick. And slowly, impossibly, she fell in love with me again. The real me. She asked about my work. She listened when I talked about Emma. She held me when I cried on Emma's birthday. She became the wife I'd always wanted. I watched it happen. I watched her transform. And I felt nothing. It was a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 year after she'd signed the contract, when everything came to an end. Diana was in the kitchen making breakfast. Avocado toast with poached eggs. She was humming. Actually humming. Happy. She kissed me when I walked in. Good morning. I love you. I love you too, I said. The lie came easily now. She went to shower. I sat down on my laptop and opened the folder I'd been building for a year. Emma's trust fund. $4.2 million. Set up the week after Diana signed the contract. Every penny I'd made before we married, kept separate, protected. Emma would have been 10 years old now. The money was for a daughter who would never need it. I opened a second folder. Divorce papers. Filed yesterday. Finalized yesterday. The house was paid off and deeded to Diana as of this morning. The car was in her name. I'd taken nothing from her except what was mine before we met. I looked at my wedding ring. Took it off for the last time. Put it in the drawer next to Emma's photo. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and wrote a note. When Diana came out of the shower 15 minutes later, I was already gone. She found the note on the kitchen counter, next to the contract she'd signed a year ago. Diana, I forgive you. But I can't forget. The papers are filed. The house is yours, paid off. The car is yours. I took nothing but what was mine before we met. You'll be okay. I know that now. But you'll be okay without me. You wanted to know what it felt like to be chosen. I hope Stephen taught you it doesn't last. And I hope this teaches you that some choices can't be undone. You chose to leave me when I needed you to stay. So now I'm choosing to leave you when you finally understand what you lost. Goodbye, Diana. Travis. I sat in my car 3 blocks away when she called. I didn't answer. I listened to her voicemail instead. She was screaming, crying, begging. Travis, please. Please don't do this. I love you. I changed. Please. Please. I deleted it. The second voicemail came an hour later. Just sobbing. Broken, desperate sobbing. The kind of crying I'd done alone in my car 6 months ago. But I'd stopped crying. And now it was her turn. I drove past our house one last time. Diana was on the front lawn, collapsed, still in her bathrobe. The neighbors were trying to help her up. She was screaming my name. I looked at Emma's photo on my dashboard. I did it, sweetheart. I made her understand. A tear rolled down my cheek. Just one. But it doesn't feel the way I thought it would. I kept driving. Away from Diana. Away from the marriage I'd destroyed by saving it. Away from the revenge that had taken everything from both of us. She cried, just like I did. But I stopped crying 6 months ago.